Alright, we're still in Eurogamer Expo 2013, and I'm sitting in the back of an ambulance with Tom Jackson and Luke Williams of Surgeon Simulator fame. Bossa Studios, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah.
So first of all, if you just tell what you both do for the game, just for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, sure. I'm the developer on the game. There's only one developer on this particular game. It's a very small team, so yeah, I'm just the guy who does all the code.
Right, and
Yeah, I'm the designer.
and the designer.
Yeah. So all the kind of whatever went in, procedures, all that kind of how it actually played out.
Well, it definitely doesn't. It feels like there's a lot more people in it, just from playing it.
Yeah, that's his fault though.
Yeah.
He makes it seem like this is a big team when really there was 4 of us.
Yeah. So just for anyone who doesn't know what the game is, could you just give a description?
Yeah, sure. It's an incredibly accurate, 100% medically accurate simulation of surgery. Although it's not. It's kind of a parody on simulator games. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, it's a bit of fun, it's deliberately hard to play. I think you could sort of compare it to like QWOP or these sort of games which have ridiculous controls. So it's basically giving someone a completely impossible task to do anyway, like a heart transplant, and then making the tools to do that completely obtuse. And the results are usually hilarious.
Yeah. Any more or?
No, I mean that's about it really. We give you a hand and almost let you do a heart transplant how you see fit.
Yeah.
So the selection of tools, that's kind of almost sandbox type of thing of
Sure.
everything in the environment can be grabbed and thrown around.
People tend to give us a hard time because we call it a simulator and it's not a simulator. It's very clumsy and difficult, but I always stand by the fact that it probably is quite a good simulation of how you would do a heart transplant as being not a professional surgeon.
So you mentioned a few games there in your examples.
Sure.
What was the inspiration behind it? If there was any one thing or multiples of things, or
It was the Game Jam theme because it was made in Global Game Jam 2013, which was back in January, and the theme was heartbeat. So any sort of kind of like rhythm or something like that, there's plenty of kind of avenues to go down. We just went really literal and went, oh, heart transplant. The actual idea for like a hand you controlled didn't really have many inspirations from anything. We just liked the idea that you could have this really stupid hand that would just knock through everything as you attempted to do this surgery. But stuff like in Jurassic Park Trespasser,
Oh
which
yeah,
we're going back a good decade or so.
I didn't play that one.
It's basically a Jurassic Park game, but you controlled the hand. So if you want to shoot a raptor, you'd be there like trying to aim your gun with this really stupid wrist and then try and shoot it. We kind of took that inspiration of because they tried to do it seriously. That was a serious game. You were fighting dinosaurs, but it was so hilarious, inadvertently hilarious. So we kind of took the way that they have this really stupid hand control, put in the finger control in there,
and made it deliberately hilarious.
and made it kind of hard. And you imagine something like QWOP, where you have to attempt to run.
Yeah, I would say QWOP's the closest comparison I would have just for the hand
But then
movement.
there's also Octodad, where it's kind of the controls are a little bit wafty. We have kind of weird physics and stuff like that. So
One of the names that before we came up with Surgeon Simulator, that came right at the last minute. We were like, what should we call it? And we were just like, Surgeon Simulator 2013. Just because there were so many simulators coming out, and we wanted to basically parody it. But one of the earlier names was Cooperation, because it's like QWOP and the board game Operation.
And there was also E and R and Q and E and space or something like that, because it was basically a description of the controls as the name. When we first started off, we weren't imagining this is like a simulator game. That would never even came about. We didn't have a description for the game or what type of game it was. We were just making it. We didn't really have an idea of what the hell we were making. And then with it a few hours from kind of the finish line, we were like, oh well, I guess you're like a surgeon, so you're simulating a surgeon. I guess let's just parody those simulator games and call it Surgeon Simulator 2030.
Yeah. So you said that you made it for Game Jam. So it was literally just a heart transplant at first.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And did you anticipate or expect any of the success of the game after that, or was it just a complete surprise?
It was us for kind of going to a Game Jam. And just deciding let's do something funny that will keep us having a laugh almost, because if you get bored in those things, it's just it's dull or it's whatever. So we wanted something to keep us that we'd all be excited to work for the 2 days with no sleep. and we wanted to do it funny because we thought we always laughed at the idea of it, but we had no idea if that was just because we had no sleep or we were just being idiots, and no one else. Everyone would look at it and go, "What's so funny?" Like,
but they did, like. You know, there was a small presentation after the game jam where everybody showed off their games in the particular building we were in, which was somewhere in London. And when we put our game up, it was like the second one on or something, and we had 5 minutes to demo the game and talk about it, but we couldn't get a word in edgeways because as soon as we started playing, the whole room was just laughter and chaos, and people were just. We were like, this is quite a good response. It's quite surprising, really, because when it's funny to us, of course, it's a joke. It's like an in-joke, but when we realised that it translated so well to other people, we were like, there might be something in this, you know?
So obviously from the heart transplant, you've got stuff like brain transplant and kidneys and all that stuff, and it's like in the back of an ambulance or in space as well. So you've added loads of stuff since it exploded, and especially the Valve collaboration. How did that come about?
That was our kind of like...
Yeah, our CEO is just basically floated the idea to them and just said, what would you reckon if we did because I don't know if you've seen the Meet the Medic video. But it's actually, that was one of our inspirations when we were making the game jam.
Yeah, the art style and everything's like quite chunky in Team Fortress, and it was gory, like, you know, because you're slapping his heart around and heart's exploding, but it never felt like squeamish gory, and that's
more like cartoon.
So that kind of art style and the way that Team Fortress did it was definitely a big kind of look and feel of the game. That's how we kind of went down that route.
So it just sort of made sense to sort of feed it back.
So it kind of came full circle.
You know, what would you think? And they just really liked the idea. So they were like,
I think you put the disc in, and the achievement is can't believe that we did this.
Let's do this.
So you've done Surgeon Simulator. Have either of you got any kind of medical background, or was it literally the heartbeat theme? Promoted that.
No, I don't think there's a single. I don't think any of us are even first aid trained.
No,
to be honest.
There's some really bad anatomy in there. Like we have the esophagus kind of go in front of the heart and all this stuff, and that's just not how it. That isn't how it is. But
it's kind of just the best guess. People sort of know what a heart looks like, you know, and we just sort of go on what people think it's going to be like,
but
rather than what it is actually.
Especially inside the game jam, we couldn't really have a tutorial and all that kind of stuff, but people vaguely understand a heart transplant, take a heart out, put a new one in, and so we keep the anatomy really basic. It's like lungs, heart, liver, ribs, like stuff you ignore all the other kind of all the other stuff that is happening, and then you kind of get this like almost like a scientific model of anatomy, and people have a basic understanding of it. So when they started the game, we just said full heart transplant, and they have like tools, hammers, drills. They're like, I can kind of guess what I need to do here. Like, exactly. So that lends itself really well just to be able to just say, we just take our basic knowledge of anatomy. Pretty much everyone's knowledge is sort of on the same level. So we can get away with not having any.
We have had a couple of surgeons. We've seen a couple of surgeons do Let's Plays on YouTube, and they're just like, that's not how it is at all.
That's completely wrong. But then we've had the reverse of other people praising us from our medical accuracy, and that just worries us, because these like trained professionals who are going, I'm
training a generation.
Detail and how accurate you got it all, and it's like, stay away, I'm not accurate at all. Stay away from me.
So if you could have a simulation of any kind, like a favourite simulation, what would it be?
In the world ever?
Anything at all. Anything.
Not even something that's been released, just a random.
If it's been released and you'd maybe like to have control over it, or.
What do you reckon?
Spaceship Simulator.
Spaceship Simulator.
Yeah,
that sounds really boring.
No, because it would be like I'd be flying around in Serenity, so I'd have to manage all the fuel, and we'd be getting boarded by people, and I had to not get boarded.
Yeah.
Well, the idea of loads of switches, you wouldn't know what they did. You'd open the airlock.
It's a bit like Eve crossed with Faster Than Light, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I like the idea of making Surgeon Simulator. So you've got a computer playing Surgeon Simulator, and you've got to use the hand to use the keys, which is controlling the hand. I think it'll work, but
let's see how deep we can go.
Yeah, and maybe just add more levels. Surgeon Simulator.
So now that this is obviously a really popular game, and obviously I'd imagine you're still working on it, is there any future plans, both simulation or otherwise, that you're working on, if you can talk about it?
We have a little, we don't have it. Oh, that was a mistake. Sorry, we have an iPad with a very early version of Surgeon on Touch.
All right.
But it seems to have gone missing.
Oh, well, I'm sure that'll crop up on the internet if and when you release that.
But the basic premise that once again, it's like how we did, because we have the Oculus Rift and the Hydra support, and it's us just like playing with the technologies available to us.
Yeah.
And obviously the tablet version that we're just testing out, like a tech demo. And we replace the hand with your hand, essentially. Like, there's no hand on screen, but you're able to just like interact with stuff, play with his face with your fingers, like grab a hammer and just like kind of smash in his ribs, and it kind of feels like quite satisfying. And we're just going to polish that up and see if what comes about. But initially, it seems.
Yeah, there's no sort of plan for release or anything. It's just like a tech demo, and we're just sort of playing with the technology and seeing.
Well, it does sound awesome. About the expo in general, have you managed to escape the ambulance and play anything, or have you just been stuck here?
No, not at all.
No, not yet.
We did Rezzed a couple of months back, and it was the same deal. Like, we just have so many awesome games, but you don't have time to play them.
I'd really like to see Watch Dogs. That's a huge.
Yeah, everyone seems to be.
Destiny's here. And that's
Is it?
Yeah.
There's all these amazing things, and hopefully we'll get some time before the end of Sunday to check these out. There's too many good things.
Is there anything as gamers or developers that you're looking forward to for next generation to play or to use to make games?
Sure. I mean, obviously because we've done the Rift stuff and the Hydra stuff in Surgeon, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what Sony are going to do with there, because they've announced they're doing a VR sort of peripheral for the PlayStation 4. I'd like to see VR become more mainstream, and I think that's like a first step, and that could be a whole new sort of level of immersion. We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, have you used the Oculus Rift yet?
I haven't, but I'm hoping to get a go of it.
I think once you try it, you're pretty much sold on it straight away. You're just like, yeah, this is good. This is what it's going to be like.
Oh yeah, I haven't even played it, and I want one, but I definitely want to play it. But that's everything. Thanks a lot for taking the time out and talking to us, and thanks for making an awesome game.
That's all right. Thank you for playing.
Yeah.
In the throat. Oh, is it just ganglion? Right. Cool.
Neurectomy.
Neurons, brain.
Some spine.
It's not going to be brain, is it?
Get the spine out.
Thyroidectomy.
Thyroid. That's a thyroid gland.
Thyroid.
Iridectomy.
Vasectomy.